swagger. Keep your swagger.
Hey, welcome into the Five Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Alan, here to kick off kind of like one of a few mini series I'm doing here. Here with Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins to get a vibe check on the season so far and kind of some things we might see down the stretch as it could play in fantasy. Hunter, what's it like being a Pens fan this season? Like, it's got to feel pretty good compared to the last couple.
I mean, it's been fantastic. This has been such a breath of fresh air compared to the last couple, as you mentioned, where the team just really wasn't fun to watch. I was kind of just waiting for a coaching change, and I don't have any ill will towards Mike Sullivan or anything like that, but there just comes a point in time where it's best for both parties to move on, and they both were able to do it this past offseason. You get a new coaching staff in here with JMUs and everyone else, and they've breathed new life into this team, and they've exceeded all expectations that I feel like, everyone had heading into this year. There are a lot of people that had them around, 75-ish points. Alan, they're at 70 points at the Olympic break, so they're about to break that pretty quickly.
Yeah,
in the final.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it like early on in the season, like this has got to be like unsustainable. Like what's going on here? They shouldn't be here. No one expected them to. But yeah, here we are. And then coming down the stretch here, this team is going to look a lot different than I thought it would because people are staying. But yeah, just again, Pens have kind of one of the best schedules for if you're in weeks 23 or 21 to 23 playoffs. Kind of want to dive into the team and hopefully some others again. I'm trying to line some guys up here as far as what we can expect down the stretch. So first off, I guess, yeah, about you, like how did you get involved in Locked On Pens, like in the hockey news, like covering the Pens?
Yeah, so I was doing a bunch of writing throughout college, late high school, and then I saw this gig for Locked On Penguins was posted, I think, on social media. I was a senior in college at the time, and I just said, what the hell, I'm going to apply for it. I had never really done a podcast before, and the person who was hiring for the show got back to me pretty quickly and was like, "Yeah, you were on my short list for this." I was like, "That's interesting," because I had never done a podcast before. But
oh wow,
I sent him a couple samples. He said he was considering me and a couple others. I was able to get it, and I was off and running pretty quickly. That was the fall of 2019. We're now almost 7 full years.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Later, I was solo for the first 2 years, and then I added Pat, who he's tremendous as a co-host, and it felt like at that point I was just needing another person to bounce ideas off of because I was just me talking to a mic for.
I get that, like the
minutes.
Episodes I've had to do solo. I'm just like, this is okay.
Yeah, I needed someone to at least talk to, bounce ideas off of, see if, him and I can disagree sometimes, which we have. We agree on a lot of things when it comes to the Penguins, but we also disagree on things, which makes for also a really fun show. But, Pat's been on here for about 3 years now. That's been going great. And then the hockey news, I got that over the summer. My good friend Kelsey, she needed a fellow co-editor because her co-editor left. And I was like, I'm happy to help. And I joined her at practices. I'd like to be able to go to games. The Penguins are always very stingy with hockey credentials, but we'll see if that changes over the offseason and into next season. But yeah, both are going really well. And we're very much hoping we get playoff content because especially for the pod, I've seen the Penguins, in the playoffs while I've been covering the team on the pod, and the viewership just skyrockets. So we would really welcome that this year.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'd shoot. And it's crazy because like making it in the Metro is so much easier than wild card.
Yes.
This season's been insane. But yeah, I guess the first big question is like, what happened? Like going in the season, this was the one team that was actively saying like, we're not trying to get better. We have a gently used Erik Karlsson for sale if anyone wants him. But yeah, like you said, you're 70 points, second in the Metro, 5 points ahead of the Jackets, 2 games in hand over the Isles. Like odds are looking pretty good.
Yes, though the schedule in March is you have to run the gauntlet.
I saw that.
Tough.
I saw that.
We will find out. I do believe, Alan, that this team is good. How good, we're going to find out pretty quickly when we get back from the Olympics, because it is playoff team after playoff team after playoff team in March. You're playing Carolina 3 times, for example. You're playing Vegas twice, for example. You're playing Colorado twice, for example. Boston is in there. You have the Islanders coming up again, which, that could be a first-round playoff series. And we've seen the Islanders be basically Michael Myers to the Penguins every single time these two teams play. They just literally have 10,000 lives. That's just how they've operated throughout their franchise's histories. But you're playing a lot of really good teams on a nightly basis. So, I keep quoting this, but, you have to fight for your right to party, as the Beastie Boys once said in their song. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I also keep coming back to, this is a team that, when you have nothing to lose, you can be really dangerous as a team. And when you also have the nobody believed in us mentality, you can be even more dangerous. That is this team to a T. Nobody believed in them heading into the year. There were no expectations, and they just said, you know what? Screw it. We're going to go out there and play our best hockey. The new coaching staff has breathed new life into this team, and you're seeing all of this. Like, this is a team that has a full belief right now. The locker room is really, really close. Just when you see like the videos of the Penguins release and all that, and everyone enjoys playing with one another, and they have a lot of momentum going into late February, going into March. This team won 14 of 20 games after the Christmas break. You remember during that very long losing streak, it looked like, this could be, the bottom falling out. Like they blew all those really bad leads and everything. But once they got that break to really cool off, relax, spend time with their family, they came back and just kicked everyone's butts.
Yeah.
They're beating a lot of really good teams in there too.
Yeah, and then new coaching staff, some new faces. Igor Chinikov, who apparently ditching the Y in his first name caused him to skyrocket. Like, what? Just a boon, like a zephyr, just a breath of fresh air in that lineup. But since the trade, it was just one of those, I guess, player and organization were kind of done. It's change of scenery, 8 goals, 12 points in 18 games since the trade. Like, how much higher do we think his ceiling could go in that lineup? Because I think he's second line, second power play. Do you think any chance he could bump Raquel or Rust off that top line?
Potentially if there's an injury, but I think right now just the chemistry that he and Malkin have, you don't want to disrupt that too much. Novak and him also work really well together. That line in general, like I talked about this heading into the season, where I really felt that Novak and Malkin could do a lot well together, just because, Novak, really good play distributor. Malkin is the same, but he also has a good release. And then now you have Chinikov, who he probably has the best release on the team, if we're being honest. That thing is a piss missile coming off his stick.
Oh, God.
And then his skating is also great as well. And he's better defensively than I thought as well. I remember at the time of the trade, I pushed back a little bit. I was like, giving up a second and a third for a player that's just been inconsistent. He's had a few injury problems throughout his career. I was like, not sure I would take that risk, though. I understand why, just because it's the type of player that Kyle Dubas has gone after quite a bit. Like, a young player on a team where it's just not working out. He did it for, Neil Benstrom, for example, Philip Tomasino. Those are just two, but none to a degree of a player that, like, this was the best of those players that he had gotten. And you're seeing why. Like, he looks like a completely different player. Very much need to get out of Columbus, but he has all the confidence in the world right now. He's scoring almost every other game at this point.
No, he's good. Like, he's definitely someone I know I'm keeping my eye on down the stretch. Like, obviously people might not give you Crosby, Rust, but Carlson, but Chinikov probably available for a lot of people in fantasy.
I could see it. Yes. If someone has not picked him up by now, you probably should, just considering the amount of production that he has. But this lineup as a whole is just so deep. Like, it's their deepest forward group they've had since, I think, the 21-22 season. They can roll 4 lines with anyone, man. Like, they really,
I'm surprised.
Yeah. Like, the top line, even though they haven't been producing as much as of late, you still have 3 players on there that can still score whenever. The second line we just talked about, the third line with Kindle and the 2 giants, Brazeau and Mantha, have been awesome this year. I mean, Ben Kindle is doing things that you just don't see for someone who is A, 18 years old, and B, picked outside the top 10 in the draft. Like, and this is his first year. Like, usually a player like this, you have to wait a year, 2, maybe 3, burst onto the scene right away. And he's not only, like, doing great things to other NHL players, he's already become one of the team's best players. And he's still only 18 years old. And then Anthony Mantha has 20 goals. Look, man, I thought he would be Anthony Beauvillier from last year. I didn't think he would have 20 goals going into the Olympic break. He's been awesome. Justin Brazeau has already set a career high in goals. And then you got the fourth line, which they can go out there against anyone. Blake Lizotte has been fantastic. Connor Dewar's been great. And Noah Chari, complete 180 from the last couple of years. So
I know Chari is a pesky guy to play against from his time in Florida.
Yes, the last couple of years just wasn't working out. I think part of that was due to Sullivan's system. Part of it was due to him not having really good line mates. He also just wasn't, that good in general. But now that, new coaching staff, different position, better line mates, you're seeing Achari at his really best. I think this is what Kyle Dubas thought he was going to get in the first couple of years of his contract. Now we're getting it out in the final year of his contract. He's been really good, but the four group especially has been fantastic.
And you mentioned Anthony Mantha. I'm always a sucker for like the underdog, the reclamation story, but turning out to be a really good free agent signing. I was like, yeah, this is a show me, and then he'll get dealt at deadline for picks. But yeah, who knows, man? He's on it's a good signing for both sides. He's 42 points in 56 games, having one of his like best point paces, best seasons. Like his best season was 48 points. Yeah, man. I think with Raquel out for that last game before the Olympic break, that was who slid up to the top line there. So it almost looks like Mantha is like next man up if we see some injuries.
Yes, I do think so. They also have some kids still waiting in the wings. Rucker McGroarty had a nice, really good stint before he got sent back to Wilkes-Barre. He's going to be a full-time NHL really soon. Avery Hayes, I know some people may want
2 goals in that first
try
game
to pick him up, but he's back down in Wilkes-Barre. I don't think you're going to see him too often for the rest of the year, just because of when this forward group is healthy, there's just not a spot for him right now. That is going to change next season. I think he is going to be here on a full-time basis. He's been lighting it up for Wilkes-Barre and obviously had that great debut. But yeah, again, that's really the forward group defensively. Erik Karlsson, I think, is having his best season as a Penguin. He has worked great with Parker Wotherspoon, another great free agent signing by Kyle Dubas. He had a great summer overall, getting Wotherspoon, getting Brazeau, getting Anthony Mantha, bringing over Archer Shelovs, who, especially as of late, he's been really good, and he'll have a chance to start for Team Latvia at the Olympics. It'll be him or Elvis Merzlikins.
Yeah, and then I know Shelovs, like I know Raj, one of the other hosts of the show, like when he said when this trade went down, there's just like Shelovs is amazing because I think he just came off of that MVP season with Abbotsford.
Yes.
So it was like, Raj was like, like he's great as long as there's no pressure on him. Like, when it comes down to it, he kind of falls apart a little bit. But Crosby looking like another point per game-ish season, but it looks like he was slowed down a little bit right before the break. 2 points in 6 games. There was, I don't know, people were saying this with McKinnon. I don't know if it's the same with Crosby or maybe something else, we don't know, but do we think maybe he was taking it easy going into the Olympics, or maybe there's an injury or something we're not aware of?
I don't think it's an injury. I think it's a combination of two things. Number one, this is a typical slump that he has sometimes. He's also a bit older now, so that makes sense. He is going to be totally fine after the Olympics. But I did say this as well. The other part, I think he really needs the Olympics. I think he is ready for these high-stakes games. He lives for these high-stakes games for Team Canada. He already has 2 Olympic golds. He's going for his 3rd one. Once he comes back, whether or not he wins gold, I think he's going to be even more refreshed and ready to go for the stretch run. So he was just also fighting it. As I said, nothing was really going right for him, but that happens sometimes even to the greatest players of all time. So again, not concerned at all. It's just small slump that he had.
And then someone I've been a stan of for a significant part of the season, Stuart Skinner, coming back in the Tristan Jarry trade. Do you have any insight as to what kind of made them say, yes, we can rebuild him, take a chance on him? Because that was something I saw or was hearing in 32 Thoughts, that there was eventually going to be a team that was like, we can use Stuart Skinner. Like, he'll actually work for our system. And it seems like he has. I think he was one of the hottest goalies in January.
Yes, he was really good in that 8-game sample, especially where he was just, winning start after start, basically going, 920, 930. He is coming off his worst start of the season, in my opinion, against the Islanders. Just was not very good in that game. I think he was the biggest reason why they didn't get that extra point. The 4th goal, especially, the Penguins are up after Justin Brazeau gave them the lead back in the 3rd period, allows a bit of a howler there. That can't go in. There was one where early in the first period, before the Penguins played a perfect road period for 18 minutes. And one of the goals that he allowed just kind of flubbed the puck from the point, and Bo Horvat was able to crash the crease for a goal. Not really blaming him for Bo Horvat. I was blaming him for just not being able to corral the puck. It's also on Ryan Shea too, just because he tried to clear it up the middle, and I'm just like, bro, send it to the corner. You really don't need to try to clear it up the middle. But for the most part, outside of that and outside of the third period against the Rangers, where he allowed a couple of goals that, probably would want back. Other than that, so like a game and a period, he's been fantastic for the Penguins. And I do hope that he's able to rediscover that form. I also think a big part of that trade was just the financial flexibility you get out of that contract, which personally, I think they regretted pretty quickly just because of, how Tristan Jarry played ever since that contract and all that good stuff. And it also serves to a reminder that Sergei Murashov is also coming. He's one of the top goalie prospects in the AHL for this team. So they're trying to make more room, so to be determined what happens with both Skinner and Shelov. Shelov's is an RFA. Skinner's a UFA. If I had to say right now, I think Skinner's probably going to walk, and maybe they could do a tandem with Murashov and Shelov's next year if they want to.
You also have Blomqvist in the minors. Yeah.
Him and Murashov are doing a nice job pushing each other down in Wilkes-Barre. That's a really fun tandem. They allowed Philip Larson, he was the third goalie there, to go seek opportunities elsewhere. So they're really starting to clear out the logjam that they've had in the organization for a while with goalies. And to me, again, they're really preparing for Sergei Murashov to make this team next year, at least as a backup.
Yeah. And then I anticipate you guys being buyers, but even then, sometimes roster players move. Do you think any murmurs on roster players that may be on the trade block going to the deadline, or if something suddenly flips and you got to sell, like who might be on the move there?
Unless they full on collapse when they come back in those final 5 to 6 games, unless they fully collapse, I don't think you're going to see them sell. Going into the season, I felt for sure as like a selling team, they would have, Mantha out there, Brazeau, maybe even Blake Lizotte before he got extended. Those are just a few obviously that came to mind, but I don't see them really moving on from anyone. It's just, I think they're going to get calls on Mantha, but I think they'd have to be blown away to even consider moving him. And even then, you have to be careful, Alan, just because of how close this locker room is. If you move someone like that who has 20 goals, what is the rest of that locker room going to say? Like, are they just going to be like to the GM, hey, you don't believe in us? Like, what the hell? Like, we're in second place. Or just, for example, say they're still in second place and you move him for a second and a third. Some of the players could be like, what the heck, man? You're not believing in us? We've had such a great season. I just think if you're the GM right now, you have to at least reward the players for the season. So that's why I keep coming back to a small buy, like a defenseman on the left or right side. On the left, I'm thinking someone for a little bit more long-term. For the right, that's more short-term, especially because, Letang, he's still out right now. Hopefully he'll be back after the Olympic break. That's going to be right around 4 weeks for his broken foot. Carlson's there, but on the bottom pair, still a little bit of questions there. On the left side, I'd like someone long-term in a top 4 role, but they also might be saving that for the summer. But yeah, I think defensively, that's where I think they're going to target for the trade deadline.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that makes sense. Like, I don't see any player you could buy being worth the price, like you said, a 20-goal scorer. Any changes you could see happening in the lineup? Say they run into a goal scoring dries up, power play dries up. Like who might get shuffled around that we could see getting a bump from that? Yeah,
so the power play has been a bit cold as of late. Everything has just looked really clunky. Zone entries haven't been there. Puck movement just looks too stagnant. They're not getting that shoot first mentality. I could see them putting Ben Kindle back on that top unit to really, try to get things going, back in the other direction. That's one, at least for me. I don't think you're touching that second line. I don't think you're touching the fourth line when healthy. If someone on the top line gets hurt, I think one of Mantha or Brazeau comes up. If a couple forwards get hurt, I think Rutger McGroarty is going to come back up and he'll play, at a middle 6, top 9 role. We've seen McGroarty play with Crosby at times, so I wouldn't be surprised if they tried him with Crosby, especially, again, if you see a couple of injuries. But, when this seems healthy, the lineup kind of picks itself, honestly, just with the combinations that they had since the beginning of the season. Fourth line just does a great job, going off one another. Kevin Hayes is kind of that 13th forward right now. So if also someone gets hurt, you can see him being slotted back in to lineup as well. He played in Buffalo on that Thursday. That was his first game in quite a while. He just hasn't really been playing for the Penguins just because he's not the same player anymore. But defensively, they have Jackson Ivany out. So you've seen Connor Clifton and Ilya Solovyov kind of, go back and forth on that bottom pair. Chris Letang obviously is out for the next few weeks as well with that fracture in his foot. So they've both been playing. But, when that defensive group is healthy, you're seeing Solovyov and Clifton just kind of slot back in and out. So if they make a move, maybe you see, one of those guys getting moved in a different move. Probably not Solovyov just because they just got him. I think they really value Connor Clifton in the room just because he seems like a really funny dude. But, he's also a UFA at the end of the year. So we'll see. They have a lot of things, I think, in the fire for over. And then we can't do anything right now because of the roster freeze, but I think they have a lot of irons in the fire after the Olympics.
And then so we talked about Chinakhov, we talked about Mantha. Any other players we may be completely underrating, maybe completely flying under the radar?
I would say Tommy Novak has had a great season. I was really high on this player heading into the year. And I know he had a little bit of a slow start, but I always figured he was going to get going. He's a really good playmaker, has an underrated release. He's a jack of all trades player to me. You can play him in almost every situation except the PK. He doesn't really kill penalties, but you can put him on power play too. You can put him in your top six. You can put him on your third line, for example. He had a lot of really nice chemistry with Ben Kindle. He has scored some big goals for this team this year. He is defensively responsible, still has another year left on his contract. I could see Kyle Dubas extending him, during the offseason. He's underrated. I think he's had a really nice year. Parker Wotherspoon, not going to give you all the offense, but as a shutdown defenseman in his own zone, he's been really good with Erik Karlsson. Even Ryan Shea, who I haven't really been that high on throughout his career, he's having his best season of his career. Again, I don't think he's going to be a long-term, top four guy, but he is playing really well this year, especially in a bottom pairing role for a lot of it.
Gotcha. And then I think we kind of answered this question, but ask it anyway. Who is maybe a player that's one injury away from finding themselves with that prime, like top power play deployment? We thought maybe Mantha, but it looked like I think Ben Kindle was on power play one.
I can see Kindle. Yeah, they really like him as the third line center, so I'm not sure you're going to get him with Crosby. Though I think, if there's a lot of injuries, maybe, but they have also other players that can go up there. They've tried Brazeau up there. They tried Mantha. You can try McGroarty, for example. But in terms of the power play, for sure, Ben Kindle. And I think they should probably be doing that right now anyway, just because of the way the unit is struggling. And it's still a top 5 unit in the league. They've been mostly good for the season, but they just got to, get back to basics a little bit. So I would say Kindle for that one. Otherwise, not really.
It's probably one of Mantha or Chinakhov.
Yeah. I'm not sure they're moving off the second line, but Mantha, Brazeau, something like that.
Yeah. And then, that was all the questions I had. So wrap it up there here. Anything you want to plug, and where can everyone find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or X at Hunter Hodies. You can follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. My co-host Patrick Damp is on all social media platforms at Synonym for Wet. And you can follow the Locked On Penguins podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, all that good stuff. You can find my written work on the Hockey News / Pittsburgh Penguins, where I write, features, news stories, all that good stuff. And yeah, it's going to be a fun race to the finish once we get back from the Olympics.
Yeah. And then go ahead, cue the outro music there. Again, thanks for listening. Again, I'm hoping to have a few more of these from some different content creators for the different teams out there. But everyone, if in case you don't hear us again before the Olympic break's over, good luck, and we'll see you next time.